Are you new to fantasy football or maybe just in your second year? If so, you will not want to miss this episode where we talk about the top 5 tips to get you from beginner to winner. Hi everyone, I'm Gary Kurtzman.
And I'm Eric Lee, and we are the Fantasy Football Consultants. So today, we're reaching out to those new members, and there's a lot of new members that are coming out, Gary. Fantasy football and fantasy sports in general are becoming more and more popular. 59.3 million people in America and Canada play fantasy sports.
That is 1 in 5 adults play fantasy sports, and it's only getting bigger.
Yeah, because it's the younger generation that are playing it. Not too many people 65 and over are playing it, so as time passes, it's only going to get greater. All right, so here are our tips that you will not want to miss if you are new, and even if you have been around a while and you're not employing these, then get with the program. All right, my number 1 pick is the season starts with the draft. Now, you can't win your league with the draft, but you can lose it. So you got to go in the draft prepared. So one of the first of my rules is you've got to use an updated draft list. If you're using a magazine, hey, the 1980s called and they want their draft strategy back. It's okay if you want to buy a magazine just to get the general lay of the land, but if you're using their rankings, which were printed back in June when they had Hunter Henry as one of the top 6 tight ends, and now he's out for the year.
That's right. You can definitely make a lot of bad mistakes by using an outdated draft prep kit like a magazine. Number 2, if you come in with an updated draft lift, also come in with a strategy. Know what you're going to do in the draft so you don't get surprised. So what does that mean? In the first few rounds, it means take those players at the top of your draft lift, the guys who you think are going to hit home runs for you. But guess what? After round 3, all those home run guys are gone. And now, strongly consider taking a flyer on those sleepers. And Fantasy Football Consultants will come out in early August with a blog of who we think are the top sleepers for the 2018-2019 NFL season. Start taking advantage of that list. Start drafting these players even as early as the 4th round, because the home run that you hit with one of those sleepers is going to make or break your fantasy season.
And that's a much better strategy, especially late in the draft, than picking up a backup tight end or a backup quarterback. Look, there will be quality backup tight ends, quality backup quarterbacks, which you can get. Even a defense and a kicker, some people are wasting backups at those. Instead, take those flyers on the wide receivers and tight ends, and when you're drafting, use our updated draft player rankings, which is also on our site at fantasyfootballconsultants.net. So number 3, the draft is over, and it's time now as a beginner. You've got to put your starting lineup in each week. Make sure you're making really smart start-'em, sit-'em decisions. But don't worry, we have your back, because every week we're going to be doing a show during the season where we will give player rankings for that specific week, considering the matchups, considering who those players are playing, and in what conditions that they're playing.
Because one of the biggest mistakes that fantasy football players can make is just going with the same starting lineup every week. And folks, that is not going to take you to the promised land. You need to make sure that your guys are healthy. You need to make sure the guys have good matchups. And ultimately, you want to make sure that you are utilizing everybody on your roster so that you can get the best lineup you can each week. And again, fantasyfootballconsultants.net, we have a list for you of the top players that changes each week, so you'll make sure you get the best lineup in. Rule number 4 of our top 5 list. Speaking of roster and utilizing the entire roster, waiver wires. Waiver wires. You do not have to have the same roster at the end of the season that you did at the beginning of the season. There are going to be some players that come out of the woodwork and really shine, whether that's because of role changes on their teams or because of injuries. And how often have you seen good players snapped up by savvy fantasy football players and they take them all the way to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, so we're going to spot them for you. Again, you can use our blog will come out every Tuesday. So before, usually waiver wires have to be in by the end of Tuesday with our top top 3 quarterbacks, our top 3 running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends who are not owned by more than 40% of the league. So in other words, they're available in at least 40% of the Yahoo leagues. And hey, if they're taken in your league, just go down to number 2.
And again, we'll do the rankings so that you can decide whether or not these quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends are on the waiver wire are right for your roster, because we'll show you the rankings so you can compare these guys to the guys already on your roster, and we'll tell you who's better, who's worth picking up, and who's worth dropping.
It's so important, Gary, that beginners know they have to be active on the waiver wire, especially early. So, and I think that usually what separates the experienced players from the beginners. Beginners like, hey, I just drafted these guys, I want to see how they're doing. But it's time to act, because even after a week or 2, we learn some things. We learn things about coaches' tendencies, who's going to be the starter, how that particular player is going to be used, and that's the time to grab those particular players. Also, injuries can happen, which will create a lot of opportunities for someone to take that person's place and perform well.
That's right. The trick is no one to cut the cord. No one to say enough is enough. It's time to hit that waiver wire. It's time to replace that guy on my team. And once again, Fantasy Football Consultants has got your back. When you take a look at the waiver wire, we will rank all those players next to all the existing players on your roster, and you can find out for the rest of the season who's going to perform better and who's worth cutting from your roster.
It's so tough for any fantasy leaguer, but especially a beginner, to know when is enough is enough. You know, if this player has been bad for 2 straight weeks or 3 straight weeks, should I let him go? That's where our rankings will help you, specifically our rankings for the rest of the season, not for a particular week. And to get those rankings, that is exclusive to our newsletter subscribers. You can go on to fantasyfootballconsultants.net, join our newsletter, which is completely free, and you have access to our rest of the season rankings. And then that will tell you, because we'll look in and decide, why is that person doing poorly? Is it something that we believe will be temporary, or is it something more permanent?
That's right. And take advantage of our analysis, our rest of season rankings, because again, we have a list out there which is not static. It's changing. It's elastic. We're updating it every week, right? That says what's going to be the rest of the season projections, and it will come with detailed analysis of why we think those players are going to continue to perform, why we think these players are well worth picking up and adding to your roster. Take advantage of that at fantasyfootballconsultants.net.
Yeah, I had players on my roster last year that I realized after yet another bad performance.
You have failed me for the last time.
And
all the weakest link. Goodbye.
So it feels good. So those are some of the key tips that you need to know as a beginner. Check out our other video where we will take a look at more advanced tips for experienced players to basically bring you to the next level of winning your fantasy football championship.
Absolutely. So again, that was our top 5 tips for beginners. Maybe, there was a tip out there that we missed. Maybe there's some other piece of advice that you like. If so, let's let all our viewers benefit from that. Please hit the comment button on fantasyfootballconsultants.net. We love to hear from our viewers, and other viewers can benefit from the tips that you provide. So again, it takes 2 seconds. Hit that comment button.
Also, we want you to hit the like button. If you like this video, do us a favor. It helps us as a new channel. Click like, and it's if you have not had an opportunity yet to subscribe, go ahead and hit the red subscribe button. That way you'll be notified of all our videos, because after all, during the season, we have new shows every Wednesday, but in the preseason, we're going to have a lot more shows. So you don't miss any shows, click the red subscribe button.
Absolutely. But until next time, I'm Eric.
And I am Gary. We're doing backwards thing today.
And we are the Fantasy Football Consultants. See you next time.
Take care, everybody.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.